Can you see me?
Yes, we are. Okay.
Well, this is Red Rat's cry. To the people from the youth, which is I and I. To the youth, if we give a helping hand. Yeah, the struggle on and I understand. Street side of we base. We don't have we own a place. Hey, under but shape we jump out of beer box we have time hard till you can't watch place. And if you see we on this we appreciate them love. That's why we got we bucket and glass. Watch people care and every now and then some school.
Hey, Arlene.
Hi,
Hello,
Derek.
how are you, Derek?
Hey, Cleo. What's going on?
I am good. How is everything going? We're just
Everything is
waiting
all
for
right.
the song to play a little bit. Yeah.
Say again?
We're just jamming to this song a little bit first before we
Okay,
start
okay.
officially.
Okay. We have more people coming on?
um, yeah.
Okay.
But we just
I wanted to pop by. Did you guys hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. We're live right now.
Okay, okay. How are you, Miss Arlene?
I'm doing wonderful. How about yourself?
That's good. That's good. I'm doing well, thankfully. You know, keeping my mask nearby as we
Yes,
try to do. Yeah. You're familiar with a 7-1 arm and a 5-1 arm, right?
yes, I am.
Okay.
You don't need
I,
one right now.
No, we're not. We're
no,
live.
they, say again?
We're live.
Okay. What did you say, Arlene?
You don't need a 7-1 arm or a 5-1 arm right now.
I'm just surprised that I thought that was a better product at some point, but now the interest looks like FHA is just the best all around.
FHA, and we got some regular conforming. That's good.
Okay, okay. I want to understand the game. Just if I understand it a quarter as good as you, it will change how my business operates and what I could do. So,
Call me offline and I'll educate you.
okay. I don't know if I could afford you now, but you
Okay.
know,
Let's start now, Derek. Okay.
let's go.
Hello, guys. Hello, hello, hello. So we were just jamming to Red Rat and Chrissy. You are living away. As you know, today it's Friday. It's Friday. So
Right.
our topic today is home ownership. So it's from homeless to homeowner. And this is part two. So we did deliver part one, and the response that we got, or responses that we received, we were begging for more. People wanted to hear more because first part you heard some information that we were not privy to, or can I say we were not knowledgeable of, and we were edified. So tonight, it's Friday. So I have on my line, I have Arlene. She is back, Arlene Price from Illinois. And we also have Eric Cornwall from New York. He's back with us as well. So tonight, we welcome you, viewers. Thank you again for joining us another week. It's almost the end of the week again. It's Friday, and we just want to welcome you. So we're just going to get right into it. Now, Arlene, I'm going to start with you. Can you please reintroduce yourself for those who did not catch part one?
All right, Arlene Price, Senior Loan Officer with Key Smart Mortgage. I educate realtors and first-time home buyers and also move-up buyers, as well as investors on different various products. Been originating loans full-time for over 20 years. I'm a mother of 5, a wife, and I also have 3 grandchildren. So thank you all for having me again.
Thank you, too, for taking the time out to come back. I mean, hey, we're appreciative of your time, and everything like that. And now, Mr. Derek, the only male tonight, it's your turn to introduce yourself to the world once more.
Okay, perfect. And Arlene, congratulations. That's awesome. So I'm Derek. I'm a New York realtor. I do assist with credit repair. I focus on residential real estate and investment properties. I work with an investment firm. We are involved in the fix and flip or renovate and resale business. And I am glad to be back here with you and Arlene and everybody else who's chiming in. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Arlene, once again. So tonight we're just going to kick it off. The last time we learned that if you are not working currently and you can show proof that you were in school for at least 2 years and currently has a job, which would show that you'll be able to pay your mortgage, you could be eligible and be qualified for a mortgage loan. Am I correct, Arlene?
Yes, you are. FHA financing allow you to use your education, which is your school certificate or whatever, to use that as a line of work because you're in school learning what it is that you've actually taken a job for. So absolutely, yes.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask you tonight, you could you could go over that again for those who were not here on that live. We could, could expound further so the audience tonight, they can be edified once, edified in something that they were not aware of. Now, I just want to let you audience know, I'm almost forgetting to take the time out. 2 of our ladies, Vanille and Angela, they're out tonight. And the reason why they're out, they're currently Angela is currently recovering from surgery. She was here last week, but then things happened during the course of this week, and unfortunately, they're not here with us tonight. So I apologize on their behalf. Okay, so Derek, I'm gonna start with you again. And the question that I want to ask that I'm sure a current someone who's interested to purchase a home would want to ask, like, what are some questions that buyers would need to ask a realtor to make sure they're choosing the right agent? We know that there are scammers out there, especially in today's era with what's going on. Everybody's trying to make money off someone without even knowing what they're talking about and trying to scam people. So what are some of the questions that a prospect buyer would ask to make sure that they're choosing, a non-scammer, but a realtor agent who would have their best interests at heart?
Okay, that's a great question. And thankfully, I have the answer in my pocket here. So You definitely want to work with a licensed agent, and a licensed agent always has to have this thing on them. It's identification that identifies them as an agent. It's a pocket card. So you see that young boy? That is me.
I can't see it.
Okay. You can't see it?
There you go. Okay.
All right. So this is a pocket card. It identifies New York State, Department of State, Division of Licensing, my name, the firm I'm with, and an identification number. So any agent you're working with, that's the first thing you could request, and they're supposed to have it on them at all times, just like a driver's license. Okay, so that will let you identify the agent. Now, whether you have a good agent or not, you have to ask more qualifying questions to see how involved they are. So, for example, when a person just asks, okay, what are you looking for? Are you pre-approved? Those are typical common questions, but that question is more geared towards me as a realtor. But a realtor, I'm licensed, and uh, the state, I have a fiduciary responsibility to my client. So when you're talking about what questions to ask, you really can tell an agent based off the questions they ask you. Because if an agent is asking just about a pre-approval and what you're looking for, they probably are looking at their commission or looking at just if you're qualified for them to work with you. So what you would ask, aside from the pocket card, is you would ask them, well, what is it? It's an interview. What is it that makes you a great agent for me to select to help me find my new home? What is it you do that's different from other agents? How is your process better than Zillow, better than the internet? And you really have to, through that conversation, you should hear factual things that can point you to a reason to work with an agent because he operates outside the box. If all I do is show you property, I am useless as an agent. I'm not here to show you property. I'm here to help qualify what you want and smoothly transition you into home ownership. I'm supposed to jump in the ring, put on the gloves, and fight for you to protect you and to make sure you get what you want at the best price.
And those are pertinent questions I'm sure one would want to ask. Now, Arlene, I know that thank you so much, Derek. I know that Arlene is a mortgage lender. Would you have any other questions that a prospect home purchaser would want to ask the lender?
Well, and that's a good question. And the thing with me is that I'm basically, my clients come by referrals for the most part referrals, and then the other part of for me doing home buyer seminar. But you can also, go and check out my NMLS number, and you can go and get reviews and stuff on me as well. But most of the time, you come to me by referrals. And with referrals, they pretty much have already given you the history of how long I've been in business. You kind of can go online and see what kind of work that I've done before. You can actually go and Google my name. You've seen the companies I work with. You've seen me, talk. I'm on various boards with the Dearborn Realtors, also with the Women's Council Realtors Board, with the chambers. So I'm kind of all around. But then you also get that one-on-one conversation for someone else to tell you I'm very personable. I take your situation, I take it to heart, and I kind of just work with you as if I'm working with myself or my family. So yeah, doing the research on the lender. And then the other thing that people are looking at, they're looking at what I can do to help them in terms of interest rates or different various programs, or have a conversation with me and see if I'm knowledgeable about the programs that I'm talking about. If I look like I don't know anything about the programs or I'm not being resourceful, or I don't say to you, well, I don't have the answer right now, but let me go and get it back with you, then that's the lender you don't want to work with if they can't, give you the information you want and get back with you on it. We might not be able to beat all the interest rates, but I need to be able to tell you why I can't beat that interest rate, and then put you in another program that's compatible with it. So you definitely want to see if they're knowledgeable. And then, like I said, look for their reputation.
Awesome. Those are great, and that's your response. I'm sure our audience, they are listening and taking notes. So now the first process, like we mentioned, we did talk about foreclosure. Arlene, do you have a lot of those that you have to deal with as it relates to your clients?
I have a client right now that had a foreclosure on her credit report. So when you have a foreclosure on your credit report, then the first thing I need the client to do is provide me documentation to show the date that home was sold. It has to be 3 years after the date that property was sold that I can actually originate a loan for you, and it has to be an FHA loan. So yeah, I have to make certain we check the CAVERS number to make certain that it's still not connected with HUD any kind of way, but it has to be 3 years after the sale date. So yes.
Okay, so just to reiterate, you're saying that if someone has a foreclosure on their credit report, it has to be 3 years past since that first went on their credit report. Is that correct?
3 years past the sale of the home. So it can be listed on your credit report. Say, for instance, someone went in foreclosure in January of this year, and it didn't get listed on their credit report until maybe like June or July. But the home didn't get sold until like September or November. It has to be 3 years after the sold date of the property. So it has to be 3 years after November after it's actually sold. So not when it's actually listed on the credit report, but when the property itself was sold, the bank has it off their books and someone else owns the property.
Oh, understood, understood. Okay, thank you
Mm-hmm.
so much.
You're welcome.
Derek, I want to ask you, hi Talisa, welcome to this week's forum, Homeless to Homeowner.
Good night, everyone. I apologize for being late.
That's okay, you're here. Okay, so Derek, I have a question for you. And I'm sure probably audience doesn't even know about this. What is earnest money? I'm not sure if you are the person who I would ask or Arlene, but I'm throwing it at you, Derek. What is earnest money? Can you expound on that, please?
So I would love to hear Arlene chime in on that as well. As far as earnest money, from my end, earnest money would be like if you're putting in an offer and you want that offer to be strong. This is good faith funds, which to my knowledge would be around 1.52% that you would put down to strengthen your offer. So everybody puts in an offer, but they say money talks and the rest walks. So this is where earnest money would work in your favor to prioritize your interest in the property.
So, in other words, if someone is purchasing a home and whatever the offering price, they can buy into it with more money that they have. Is that what you're saying? That's called earnest money?
Say that one more time, please.
Okay, because I want to kind of break it down so I can understand myself. So let's say someone is purchasing a property and whatever the offering price is, right? They have more money. You're saying they can or they can buy more into like reducing that amount. Is that I'm not understanding?
So it's like putting security with your offer. Anybody could write on a paper, I'll give you this. And they may have money in the bank, but to submit a check or a copy of a check rather, to submit that is to secure your position. So in real estate, that would be earnest money. It's good faith money, but
It's like a secure in the spot kind of money. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like if you're like how a person would put a security on their application when they are applying for an apartment.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Not moving in, so you're paying the security and the deposit, but to offer that security up front as a deposit to my interest.
Now I understand.
It's just more concrete what I'm saying. I'm saying I want to be your your buyer, or I want to be your tenant, and I want you to consider me, and I'm showing you money, like, I want you to consider my application. I want you to consider my offer. Because anybody could put in an offer with a pre-approval. It doesn't mean that they actually have a commitment.
Okay.
So
Understood.
if it's like an auction, but not really an auction, it's just like you're making sure that you get the house.
You're not making sure of it, because the only way you could make sure is once you complete that purchase, but you're submitting it to strengthen what you're offering.
Okay.
You know, it's similar to a deposit, because a deposit says, if you accept me, it's yours,
Gotcha.
versus just saying, I want it, are you going to give it to me?
Oh, okay.
Understood. I mean, I tried to drag you out so that at least, I could have a better understanding. Now I understand exactly what
Sure.
money is. Arlene, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, so when clients come to me and want to get pre-approval, we're having a seminar. Then I say to them, you need to be prepared to put up earnest money, because earnest money shows the seller that you're a serious buyer. And once you put up earnest money, then the seller is no longer allowed to show the property to anyone else. So you basically want to secure that this property is taken off the market. They can't show it to anyone else. So you're not up against anyone else. The other thing is, because I've got a situation right now where a client gave a little bit of earnest money, but she hasn't gotten the documents required from the underwriter to give her an approval, and the seller is getting really anxious. So my suggestion is to put $2,000 more earnest money up, and this will show that the seller that you're a real serious buyer, and that you're doing all you can to get your act together to buy this property. And that's very strong. When they see that you're putting $4,000 and $5,000 up as earnest money, they know that you're a serious buyer. Because earnest money, you can lose your earnest money if your financing doesn't, if you just walk away from the property. The only way you're able to get your earnest money back is if you were denied the loan. The other thing with the earnest money, the borrower doesn't lose the earnest money. They get credited back to that at closing. So whatever you're putting up as earnest money, you can put as much as $5,000 or $6,000, because it's going towards your closing costs anyway. So if you have it in the bank, put as much money as you can, especially now, because right now it's a seller's market or whatever. We can't keep enough houses on the market. So if you see a house you really want, put a substantial earnest money down. That shows that you're a serious buyer, and it makes the seller no longer able to show the property to anyone else.
Okay, so that's even additional information there. So the seller can't do much once they get that earnest money. So I hope that you guys who are watching, you're understanding the process, and going forward, you know what to ask and what to look out for, and if there's any hanky panky taking place. Okay, so another question. Derek touched a very important point in part one as it relates to inspection. Now, Derek, I'm going back there. If an inspector finds something wrong with the property or the house, what happens?
Great. So a couple things. When you get the inspection done, you want a thorough inspection to accurately diagnose all the issues you may encounter with this house. Because once the loan is approved and this house is yours, all the problems that come with it are also yours to manage. So what happens is, when they do the inspection report, you want to analyze that. First of all, you want to pick a thorough inspector. You want to pick a inspector that it is going to say, hey, look, the back deck is all wood. I could do a termite. It may up it another $300, but I could add termite. This is where that upsell actually can work in your benefit. This is not the part to pay the least as possible. You want to diagnose everything that's wrong with the property, because there's two parts of the negotiation process. Okay, the first part is the offer. The offer gets you to the table once it's accepted. The second part of negotiation is after the inspection report comes back, you put all the details based off that inspection report that you want fixed in that house, along with your signature on the contract, and it goes back to the seller. The seller will then have to review and either A, make those fixes and sign, or B, negotiate. Credit, something will have to happen. So when something is wrong in that inspection report, you want to utilize that to negotiate fairly so for example, this house here, I'm looking at an actual house. I actually know the status of it. The roof on the back is not done at all. So the asking price, a person would not look and see from the face, it looks brand new. But when I go in the back and I back up, I could look on the top of the roof and see they didn't do the back of the house. So upon doing that inspection, I would utilize that to negotiate that the roof is going to take roughly 20 grand. Half of it was done. That's 10 grand. Credit me 10 grand, or I need you to complete the other half of the roof. So in the inspection report is pivotal because it allows you to have ammunition to fairly negotiate at the table. You don't want to take advantage of the person, but you want to get a better value of what you're purchasing through what the inspection brings back. I can't hear you. I'm gonna mute.
Yeah, so questions that they probably would ask as well would be like, how long has the home been on the market, right? I'm sure that's something of importance. Also, like you mentioned, how old is the roof? How old is the building? Like, what's included in the sale? Has there been any recent major renovations? So I'm sure these would be questions that they would also ask, in the whole interim of taking place, right?
So who would ask these questions? You, the buyer,
Buyer, yeah.
Okay, so those are great questions that a very educated buyer would ask. Many buyers are emotional about the purchase, so they're just like, oh my gosh, I want this house. So they just walk in and they just want to let the inspector do his thing. No. As you go by, look and ask questions. You're paying for a service. This is not free. You're going to either have a 30-year heaven or a 30-year nightmare based off of your knowledgeability on the purchase before making the purchase. I have my car here, and I'm not a car engineer or anything. So to my knowledge, my car is fine. My car is great. The mileage is low is great. But guess what? If there's something wrong with the engine and I get a regular inspection and they don't check everything out, I may not even know. But the person I sell this car to, they're going to inherit everything that comes with this. So the questions that you want to ask is, here's a trick I learned. If you're buying a house in any neighborhood, especially Brooklyn, the house beside it looks similar to your house, typically, because zoning and everything else. So if I look on one house and I see that they have flashing or the gutters on one house and the other houses, but on mine it has none, it would draw a question. Did they have a gutter problem and then the water spilled over and they just removed it to make the job look clean? It would raise my antennas. So you cannot be an inspector and I could tell you a couple things that you could do. So the inspectors are supposed to do this. So I am not an inspector. I'm not a licensed inspector. I do not represent myself as an inspector, okay? So water damage is a big issue for any house. And if you look in the corners of the floor where they either have molding there, where the wood floor meets the wall, if you see any discolorations there, chances are water is behind that wall and it's causing mold on the back of it. Now, you can't rip open their wall and see what's on the other side, but also if you see bubbles in the paint, that means water is dropping in and that's what's forming those grooves into the paint. Also, if you see streams, you know, another thing is after I look at a property and my client says, I want this, I look at the weather and I look for the next rainy day and I plan to revisit it with a family member who I didn't get to bring the first time, who is excited to see this purchase because I really want the house. Just so I could get in there on a rainy day and actually see what's going on, see if there's any leaking anywhere, see if there's anything going on. So I don't want to over answer your question, but I want to thoroughly answer it. I can't hear you, so I'm gonna take a break.
Yeah, well, you're not over answering because that leads me while you're talking, I'm listening because remember, we have an audience who needs to be educated. That leads to a question where if a home is in a flood zone or flood prone area as it relates to natural disaster, that's something that they would need to look out for. Now, who would deal with that? Would that be an engineer, just like how you have the inspector would deal that? I mean, would that have to be an engineer or an inspector?
I can answer
That
that
would
question.
be.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mhm.
Well, most of the time, the realtors know if it's in the flood zone. But in the event that they don't know for sure, when the contract comes to me, we have a system that we check. And we also have our insurance company that check. We put the zip code in or code. And if it's in the flood zone area, flood insurance is required. Flood insurance is about 2 or 3 times the amount of money that the regular insurance requires. At that point, if the buyer is not happy with that because the insurance is going to be really high, they can cancel out the contract because they weren't aware they were in the flood zone area. But yeah, we check on every property for flood zone. Every contract coming across my desk, I'm checking to make sure that they're not in the flood zone or see if they are in the flood zone or not.
Okay, so that would involve you definitely, Arlene, as the mortgage lender. Well, that's good. That's good news to know. So you also mentioned the other day, Arlene, I'm going to continue with you about credit score and as it relates to purchasing house. And also, did you get a chance to look at the NACA if it was also available in Illinois? That's for you, Arlene.
Okay, so I don't work with NACA. NACA is another lending company like myself. However, I am aware that NACA is not credit score driven, and NACA has a lower interest rate. I do understand that NACA takes a little while longer. What NACA does is look at their whole payment history overall, and they go through a whole educating process. So I occasionally refer people over to NACA, but we're both like lenders. They just do a program where they have a list of homes, or they work with somebody collectively with a list of homes that they can assist people with, and basically it's a lower income type of situation. But
Right.
with myself, I
Mhm.
work with mostly FHA clients as well, and FHA allows you to get in with 3.5% down, and it could be 100% gift. Before COVID, we were able to get you in the FHA program home with 3.5% down with a 580 credit score. Since COVID, then you have to have a 620 credit score. Um, I am looking for it to change back probably in 30 to 60 days where we can go back to 580 credit score, and it helps you get in with 3.5% down. Now we do have other down payment programs, but you have to have a 640 program, 640 credit score, and it pays the down payment for you as well, the 3.5% down.
Oh wow. So wow. Now, what if it's a partner that's purchasing?
When you say a partner, what do you mean
Two
by that?
people. Two people. Partnership. What if it's two, like husband and
Yeah,
wife?
they both have to have a credit score of 620 and above.
Okay, so both of them have to hold the same.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to describe as it relates to the lender, to the public or audience at large?
Well, I know right now our interest rates are really at an all-time low. I mean, now is really a great time to buy. If you have a job and you've been on your job for 2 years, so I can show 2 years of income, whether it be school or whatever, our interest rate is really, really low. And like you said, we do have those programs that help you with the down payment program. So now is a really, really great time to buy. I'm not going to quote interest rates because you have to quote APR as well. But I mean, we got rates. We just got some things that rates are going down to 1.992%. I mean,
Oh
it's,
wow, that's
their
low.
interest rates are really, really good. So I would encourage everybody to try to buy if they can, because if you're paying rent, you're paying someone's mortgage. So, why not pay your own?
Wow. I mean, now, is there any restrictions as to how much money one can put down as it relates to, the Money Laundering Act and how much they can come up with cash?
Well, we can't really put cash long. It has to be seasoned. It has to be in the bank for at least 60 days. I have to verify the last 60 days of the income that's coming in. Um, if some people have cash, like I understand that there's some different groups that do partner or hands or whatever, uh, then they would have to get a gift from someone who has a bank account. It has to be a family member, has a bank account that has that money in it already that has been seasoned for at least 60 days. So no, you can put as much money down as you want. The more money you put down, the better position you are and the better interest rate. The only thing with FHA loan,
Mhm.
regardless of how much money you put down, there's primary mortgage insurance. With FHA loan, primary mortgage insurance is required for the life of the loan. Conventional, once you get 20% of equity in the home, then you can eliminate primary mortgage insurance. Primary mortgage insurance is an additional insurance policy for anything you put down less than 20%. But with FHA, you can put down 40%. You're still paying PMI because it's backed up by the government. They want to make certain they have that additional insurance policy in the event that you go through foreclosure or you walk away, do a deed in lieu or whatever. Then they have that additional insurance policy that the bank will still get paid for that house.
Okay.
I have a question for you there. So if a person starts with a FHA loan and they establish 20%, would refinancing change that?
Sure will. I do it all the time. I tell them get out of it, get out of the FHA and get into a conventional, so you can avoid the PMI. I actually just close on a loan like that. Sometimes it save people almost $200 a month.
Oh wow. Well, that's a lot because that's like 200 times 12. That's what, 2,400 for the year. That's a lot.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Now, how many different grants can one get, Arlene, as a single parent? Are there, how many grants can one person and one individual get in purchasing a home?
It just depends on the credit score, the type of grants that there are. There are some lenders that allow some grants to be layered, and then there are other lenders that does not allow layering. Like there's some grants that you can use with the IDA or within reach, no money down, but you can also get a grant from the community itself that you can utilize as well. And so and then there are some grants that some people have on their jobs. They have grant programs. So I have to look into it individually and structure it the way where they can, use all those layered grants. So about 2 to 3: mortgage credit certificate, the IDA, within reach. So I would have to definitely do more research based on that particular person and look at where those grants are coming from to see if we could layer them or not.
Okay, so as you mentioned, I know you wouldn't be at their individual jobs, but like, what kind of work related grants would those be? I'm curious because I've never heard about that one. So I'm learning
Yeah,
something
I
again.
had one. I had a client, and it's been a year or two, that her job had some savings plan or whatever. And I guess it was an incentive to try to help them buy homes.
Hmm.
And she put a certain amount of money into this savings plan, and they matched it. And then they matched it dollar for dollar. And then towards the end, then they gave her an additional $5,000, and it was towards her buying a home only. So it's something they set up with their company. They can assist you with helping you buy. So some employers may do that, just like the savings program. And then I know some of the community, the villages may have programs and stuff like that as well, just to try to encourage people, to buy homes and stuff.
Wow, that $5,000 is a great deal. Plus additional
Absolutely.
mortgages. Like, who wouldn't want to take advantage of that? Wow.
Right.
I mean, guys, are you listening? I hope you guys are listening. Have your notebooks, your pens and pencils, whatever can write, and taking notes, because these are some valuable information that you may had to pay for in the past, or in the future you would have to pay for. So I'm sure these are valuable, valid information coming from a mortgage lender right here on Ladies Uplifting and Inspiring. Now, Derek, and I'm just gonna ask. I'm not sure if it will be you, Arlene, or Derek, but whoever seems fit or deems fit to respond, please go ahead. Now, is it better to invest in a home that's already owned or get a brand new home? Derek?
Okay, Miss Arlene, any thoughts on that before I jump in on that one?
Well, here's the thing. One of the things that I ask my clients is, what is your ultimate goal? What is your short-term and long-term goal? Some people just want a brand new home from the ground up. So it depends on what their time frame is, because if you want a home from the ground up, we're talking about anywhere from 3 to 6 months, depending on the year, the time of the year, especially here in Chicago. But when you buy that home, that's your single family home. So is this going to be your final dream home? Because if this is your very first home, usually I wouldn't advise you to take your very first home and have it built, not unless you plan on just really being there for like at least 5 or 10 years or more. Other than that, like a lot of my clients right now are looking at buying homes that has an investment with it, which means they're purchasing 2 units, which means they rent out the second floor and they live on the first floor. And basically, the tenant on the second floor is paying their mortgage payment on the first floor. You can start off like that. And then when you save enough money, then go and have a home built. But if you're newly married and you just really don't want to be a landlord and you're not looking for investment and you just want to go ahead and get your dream home and get it built from the ground up, then I say go for it. It's beautiful. So yeah, it just depends on what their long and short term goals are.
Okay, and remember, Miss Everett, she touched on the last time when you mentioned about the you just made a point there. I lost it, but I will remember. Derek, I'm gonna allow you to continue on that question.
All right, so absolutely, it really depends on your goals. So the thing is, with a house, houses appreciate in value, even if nobody occupies it. Unlike a car, the model for this year, brand new, is not going to be the same value if nobody drives it 5 years from now. It's going to be less. So if you're in like Arizona and you and your wife, like Arlene mentioned, want to buy your dream house, you can go ahead and do so. Otherwise, there's no real material benefit to getting a new house versus getting a house that already has strong bones, and you're essentially just renovating it to keep it up to date and styled.
Mm-hmm. And you know how
There's
some
really
people are. Some people
Say again?
they want to. You know how some people are. Some people want to know that they're the first person. They don't. What they're probably saying.
Yeah. And to me, I mean, if you have the money, sure, you could do that. My cousin out in Arizona, him and his wife built a beautiful house from ground up. Sadly enough, they did decide to part ways and on divorce, and that house is being sold. So
Next thing, those things are kind of technical. So I would say also
right,
if you're gonna purchase a home with someone, especially if that's a lifelong investment. I know things do happen, yes, but I would say also make sure that this is someone who you're gonna be with, for better for worse, for richer or for poorer. You know what I'm saying? So the thing came back to me. Um, or it could be where they build it from scratch, or it could be like a new development as well. Because some people don't want to do that; they just have a new. We have new developments that go up on a daily basis. It could be a brand new home in that way. So I remember Arlene. What I was saying earlier was Sister Everett. She did touch on the fact that when some people are about to purchase homes, they have the notion that they will buy like the 2 stories or so to rent out 1 floor and they live on another, or rent out 2 floors and they live on one. But what she was touching on was that she would not recommend that because, what if your tenants don't show up? You still have your mortgage to pay. So do it because you know that you're able to pay the mortgage. What's your take on that, Arlene?
Well, we're going to qualify you based on you being able to pay for the building yourself anyway. So we're not going to necessarily even calculate, we having to have that tenant in there. But going in there, and we're going to also require you have some reserves.
Mm-hmm.
So going in, you're going to know that there's a possibility that they're not able to pay their mortgage or they can't pay their rent, because it might be a situation where you yourself can't pay your rent or mortgage. It's just like owning a home. If you can't pay your mortgage, it's the same thing. You've got to find other alternative or some other resources. I would only say go into buying a 2 unit if you really want to be an investor or want to be a landlord. I wouldn't necessarily say going in stating that, okay, I got somebody else who's going to pay the rent or the mortgage for me. Just take that money, what they were going to be paying you, and put that in the bank for rainy days, because things do happen. The water, you have problem with the water, the heat goes out or whatever. So you've got to have some money for maintenance and stuff anyway. But it's just a great idea if you do have the tenant that's paying, because you can take that money and save, and then you can continue to have your repairs done, or you can save that money and buy you an investment property in another city or wherever else. But yeah, but you definitely got to be a landlord material. Now for myself, I am someone who is not interested in being a landlord, not with a 2 unit. So it's not for everyone. It is definitely not for everyone. I can see me having an Airbnb. Like I said, I'll have it in Jamaica and work with tenants like that. But in terms of a long-term rental lease with someone, it's not for everyone.
Awesome. Okay. Okay. So, you already have a contact who was with us on part one, Michelle, and we will find a way definitely for you to contact her so that you and her can finish, talking about that process about the Airbnb in Jamaica. Now, another question that prospect would probably want to ask, or any random person, is what if the house is appraised for under the offering price? What if the house is appraised for under the offering price?
I'll answer that. So when
Okay.
I get appraisal back in and it comes in lower, then I reach back out to Derek and said, Derek, the value didn't come in, so we've got to get with the attorney and renegotiate this contract. So if the seller is not interested in renegotiating, going down to the appraised value, then my client, the buyer, can actually just walk away. That's an opportunity for them to walk away. If the seller is really interested, and if they have an FHA appraisal done and the value is lower, it stays for 6 months. So for 6 months, he can't sell it anyway. He or she can't sell it because it's going to stay. That price is going to be there for 6 months. So it's to their best interest to renegotiate, redraw that contract up, make the addendum, and go ahead and move forward with that. Derek, I'll let you chime in with the rest.
Absolutely. So that just means it's fortunate for the buyer because that price has to come down for this loan to go through. If the bank won't release the funds, you can't sell the house anyway. And like I just learned, it stays on for 6 months. That's new to me. I appreciate that information.
Arlene is always coming up with all the information. You see why we had to have you come back, Arlene, because you are just so versatile. Oh my goodness. Listen, did you say tonight how long you've been doing this? I don't think so. Can you just let the world know how long you've been doing this for those who didn't hear the first time,
A
please?
little over 20 years.
This lady, guys, Arlene Price, she is an expert. And that's just an understatement. She is just remarkably knowledgeable about mortgage, home owning, and all that.
Thank
Oh my
you. Thank
God, you
you.
are welcome. Now, another question that I'm going to throw again is what kind of delays there can be and how to avoid them? What kind of delays there can be and how to avoid them?
Is that for me or Derek?
Both of you go after each other.
I get a lot of delays on my end because either the borrower doesn't provide all the documents needed, or there are some conditions that came in and the borrower is taking a while to get those conditions cleared, or the appraisal came in low and the seller is going back and forth whether they want to move forward with it or sign an addendum, or what are some of the other things? The bank account, yeah, I've run into a lot of issues where the bank account, they're getting the gift money and money is just, being transferred all kinds of ways. They have 2 and 3 different bank accounts. They're getting 2 and 3 gifts. So we got to trace the money from one account to the next account. We got to verify large deposits. We've got to look at the pay stub and to verify that the pay stub is adding up. We're looking at verification of employment to make certain that the overtime is there, that they said it was there, to make certain that the hours were still there. So yeah, we can run into a lot of them. We try to head on them, and I've got a huge team now that's working with me on that. But like right now, we've got a delay because we trying to. I have a client that's going VA. We ran into an issue with a certificate of eligibility. And the seller says either we're going to go VA or conventional. The client doesn't want to go conventional. We can go FHA. The client wants to wait for the certificate of eligibility to come in. So we're in limbo, we're on hold. Until the client decides either we're going to go conventional or we just need to void that contract out and wait till her certificate of eligibility come in and go look for another property.
Okay, now can you expand a little bit more, Arlene, before I go to Derek? What's, for those who probably don't understand, what's an addendum and what is conventional? Can you expand a little bit on those two, please?
So an addendum is an additional documentation with the contract, basically just explaining that there's some changes that need to be made. So instead of scratching up the contract and making X's and marks or whatever, you just rewrite it out saying, well, we're going to restructure this contract as a conventional contract versus being a VA contract. So it's just like a little paragraph on a PDF, just what some changes are being made. And then conventional versus FHA is conventional loan is backed up by Fannie Mae. And that's and then FHA loan is backed up by the government.
Awesome.
And so conventional requires a larger down payment than FHA does.
Okay, because FHA is government, so we know that's somewhat subsidized, right?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And
Awesome.
it's backed up by the government. Yep.
Right. Okay, thank you so much for that clarity. Now, Mr. Derek, I'm going to ask you the question like I did ask Miss Arlene. What kind of delays there can be and how to avoid them?
So from my end, delays are in every direction you go. Okay. And in my line of work, time kills deals. Now it depends which side of the equation you're representing. So sometimes you want to avoid things getting dragged out. Other times you want to drag things out a little bit. So in terms of delays, what are some common delays? So for underwriting to complete, for loan rates to be locked in, you have to be in touch with the loan officer, make sure that they're doing their part for the client. There could be delays if we do need to amend the contract and the attorneys are going back and forth at each other's necks, or if one attorney is trying to reach the other attorney and that attorney is on vacation, So time kills deals for me representing a buyer, and it can for a seller as well. So how to avoid delays is it's best when it's people so you know what chain of communication to expect. 1. 2 is in communications, I like to put all parties involved except the client. I like to put both the attorneys in. I like to put title. I like to put all parties in. So when we converge on the date of closing, it doesn't get delayed and pushed back. Because another thing that can happen is if things get pushed back beyond the time frame that the pre-approval is good, or the funds to clear, once you pass that time, you have to go back through it again. And if you go through it and it doesn't arrive, a person made a big purchase or something that changed up their financial profile, it could completely break the deal. So
Oh,
how to avoid delays is to remain on top of every single step of the way. So, for example, if I have a client that wants this property, sometimes depending on how it's priced and if my client is going conventional, if they're going cash, I may put a contingency on it. Like, this offer stands for 72 hours. This way it pushes the seller to make a decision. You either A, accept us, B, decline, or C, you counter us. But to not respond to us is the absolute worst position for me to put my buyer in, because it allows that seller to use that offer and shop it with other people to say, well, look, I got 510, I got 680. If you want it, give me 700 and get you into a bidding war. That's what we don't want when I'm representing a buyer. But if I'm representing a seller, I want the bid war. So, of course, you want to get the client the most money. So you want people to bid and put their best offers forward. And you know what? A lot of times, how we associate money in terms of an offer versus the reality is people will lose homes over $50 and not know it's $50. For
wow.
every 100,000 on a mortgage, for every $100,000 of the house costs here in, like, Brooklyn, Queens, and whatnot, the immediate boroughs here, every 500 to 600, every 100,000 equates to $500 to $600 on the mortgage. So if you're talking about wanting to reduce, if a house is 525 and you want to put in an offer for 500, that $25,000 is only what, $125 on your mortgage. Some people say, you know what, this is my cap out number, and the difference will be 10 grand. 10 grand. If they're asking for 700, but you put in 690, you could lose it for someone who put in the offer for 700. The difference on that mortgage is $50.
Mm-hmm. Wow. You see, so these are things that everyone has to be mindful of, guys. I hope that you're listening. Now, what if someone doesn't have a lawyer? Have you ever had any cases where a client or prospect buyer doesn't have a lawyer? I mean, I'm just asking.
Yeah, absolutely. I got them one.
So how does that work?
I have attorneys that I've worked with that, if they have good communication with me, and I know that they're going to prioritize my client like I do, I know they're accessible. Clients oftentimes don't have a real estate, they're buying their first home. They don't have a real estate attorney specifically. A regular attorney, if you have a litigation attorney handling your real estate, they may do it because they get to charge you per hour, but that's not their specialty. You don't want a litigation lawyer. If you're dealing with a doctor that handles malpractice, you don't want that person to be representing you for real estate. They don't know about real estate. This is
Understood.
not their field. So I would provide options for them, or I will encourage them. And people who work for CBS or they work for certain corporations, they may have uh, attorneys that they have access to through their company as well. Whether they want to use that or if they want one, I can provide one.
Okay. Arlene, what do you have to say about that? I mean, is it a case where one can go through the purchasing process without an attorney? Arlene?
No, we're in Illinois. We're required to have an attorney on all sales for Illinois. We're an attorney state, so it's mandatory. So if I do get a client that doesn't have an attorney, just like Derek, I have lots of relationships with attorney, realtors, or whomever. I refer them out to someone that I work closely with.
Now, does an attorney
Mhm.
fee, does it cost a lot to get an attorney?
For buyers, most of their fees are like between 450 to 500. I think the sellers, the fees are a little bit more. I normally don't work with attorneys on the seller side. I only work with them on the buyer side. Normally, the realtors get the attorneys for the sellers, and they get them for the most part for the buyers as well, also. But if they come to me first and they don't have one, I refer them out to one.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. So for those who again who are looking into purchasing a home, these are important information. You can't make a purchase. It's not advised to do it without a lawyer. And like Arlene stated, in her state, in Illinois, it's against the policy or rules there. Okay,
New
so
York as well.
see, okay, so sometimes we have to do our own due diligence, do our own research before, like Derek stated in our part one, the things that a client would need to do before they are thinking of making that purchase, do their own research. Okay, so I have one last question. And this would be, like I said, if it's a client, would probably ask, what is considered a short sale?
Derek, you
Is
want to
that
answer?
question for myself or Arlene?
I'll start with you, Derek.
Okay, a short sale is when, let's say, a house is valued at 800,000 when the person gets the loan, but let's say the value drops because, let's say, when Sandy hit, or let's say the property value pretty much is less than what the loan is. So if the property value is 500,000 now, but you have an $800,000 loan, it it may not. How can I word this without incriminating myself? So simply put, the bank may approve that uh, because the house was called underwater, meaning that the loan is more than the house is worth now, they may allow it to be purchased. So it could be purchased closer to what that appraised price is. So the bank gets to collect money instead of not collecting money and have to auction off the house. Did I explain that clear, or is it a little foggy?
I'll say for me, a little bit foggy.
Okay, all right. So what they'll do is when houses go to foreclosure, they will auction that off. And if they auction it, they may not get the number that they're looking for. They're going to get the best bid. But if the numbers are right, the bank will rather collect money rather than. So put it like this: if I had a product I'm selling you, or you have a product that you're financing, and that product is you're financing it for $1,000, but you realize that you can get the same product for $250. Would you continue to finance it? Would you?
No,
Right?
you
You
are
wouldn't.
correct. Because
So oftentimes, So oftentimes, when a person's house is upside down, they will stop paying that mortgage and go for a short sale, because instead of them paying 800,000 when the house is worth 500,000, they would rather get a short sale done so they could get out of that deal, and the bank can still get their money.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do a short sale instead of foreclosure, a short sale allows you to enter the market again within 1 to 2 years to purchase a home again. But if you go through foreclosure, that could stay on set for 7 to 10 years, depending on which chapter bankruptcy you file. So
Oh,
short sale is the best option between the bank and a seller that has a house that's underwater.
okay. Now I understand perfectly.
Oh,
Thank you so
one
much.
more thing. One more thing. Most people don't know this. Okay? They don't know that if their house is underwater and let's say they defaulted on some payments, like in this economy, a lot of people have.
Right.
They may say, you know what, I'm just not going to pay this mortgage and let the bank come take the house. And we know it takes a while for the bank to usually, process all paperwork and everything to come and take that house. And they believe that, well, hey, I haven't been paying rent for the mortgage of $5,000 for the past 9 months, so I just saved up $45,000 to myself, and they think that they're off the hook. When in fact, that's not where it ends. The bank will not only take the house, but they'll come for the deficiency balance.
What?
Yeah, which means that after they take the home, they're still coming after you. They're not done with you yet.
So can you avoid that?
If you do a short sale, you could avoid that.
Hmm.
If you don't do a short sale and you have other assets, guess what? They're coming for them.
Okay. Thank you so much for that response, Derek. Miss Arlene, you want to touch on that a little bit? The short sale. What is it?
I think he pretty much summed it up. I've had a couple of clients who bought short sale and who had to do a short sale, and basically their income situation changed. The one who had to put his home up for short sale, he lost his job and his income situation changed, so he's not able to afford the house anymore. And just like Derek said, he couldn't afford the house, and the value wasn't there. They're upside down, so he owed more than the house was valued at. And so the bank has to, it's almost like doing a home modification. They have to look at all your income, your assets, and all of that. And if they can see where you really don't have enough money, you can't really afford the home, then they will welcome the short sale. And so they will they will sell the house for a percentage lower, basically what the market is going for, a little bit lower than that. So they will allow you to do that. The thing about a short sale is that it does stay on your credit, but on your credit report, you can't buy again until 3 years after it's sold.
So
And then no, go ahead. What was the question?
So you're not really getting away because I did hear Derek mention about a short sale would be better than a foreclosure. I did not know that would be something that goes on your credit report as well.
Yeah,
Oh
it
wow.
goes on your credit as well. Absolutely. It's on your credit as well. So you still can't buy it until 3 years afterwards.
Yeah, in New York here, we have ways a person can buy within 1 to 2 years, but more commonly, they won't be able to buy for 2 years if they go to a short sale. But if they go to the foreclosure, that's the ultimate worst, because not only does it prevent you from getting a loan for 7, 10 years, but they also come after your assets or come after that deficiency balance after they already took the home.
Okay. Is it the same thing in Illinois, Arlene?
They won't necessarily come after you for the balance, because you already had to show proof up front that you were not financially able to keep the home and that you need to go through short sale. So
Right.
once you provide that proof up front, then they're not going to come after you later on, because where are you going to get the additional money from? They've already checked all your assets and everything already.
Exactly, Derek. So what's up with New York? What's going on?
Well, New York is aggressive because a lot of people use loopholes to use the system. So New York is aggressive with collecting their money. As you see in the news, they're talking about the reason why they've been trying to delay foreclosures and delay people getting evicted is because they anticipate that a lot of people who already lost their income sources or their finances were tossed upside down in this market.
Mm-hmm.
They already anticipate that a lot of people are going to forfeit on paying their mortgages. So now they're looking at different ways to keep that person into the mortgage, because New York is built off of real estate, and if the market becomes stagnant, it's never going to stop. But if it doesn't move at a certain rate, then it's going to affect other businesses and it's going to heavily affect the economy. So they're still going to look to foreclose, but right now we're in a place that people are going to get sorted. It's either you going to go short sale or It's either you go short sale or you're going to get pre-foreclosed on. And they're going to have to auction it off and they're going to come after it because they rather, if you ever heard of houses for $1 and houses for $5 and things of that nature, a
Right.
lot of that is because they just want to get someone in there to commit to the taxes. You can buy a house for $1. The tax is not going to be $1. You're going to still pay the property taxes on it. So with nobody occupying that house, it's costing that state, that county more money than if someone did occupy it. So if too much time passed, obviously New York is not that kind of place, but you'll see Pennsylvania, you'll see other places that are a little bit more spread out, not as dense in population, that they'll do that in.
Okay, so there are actually like I did ask that question too
I
before.
remember.
Houses. Okay, so with that being said, Arlene, is there anything in general, we're about to wrap up. Is there anything in general that you want to feed our audience with, as it relates to those information, as a mortgage lender?
The only thing that I would say is that if you have any type of desire to own a home or own property or investment, because it's a way of building legacy, I would definitely say reach out to myself or Derek and just to inquire and get some information and, build generational wealth. Us as Black people, we're not doing that enough. We're the lowest group of people purchasing home. We're at 47% in terms of home ownership. And so we do need to encourage one another to buy homes, buy property, because it's a way to, like I said, build legacy, leave something for your children and your children's children. Just have something that you can just pass along the family and you build equity. You can use the equity to send your kids to college. You can use the equity to take trips, once things open up or whatever. It's a great way to just build assets and just have something. So I would definitely encourage home ownership. And I would encourage it as early as possible. You can start off with a little starter home and then move your way up. And like I said, if you're paying rent, you can buy a home, even if it's just a condo, just something small. But I would definitely encourage people, if you just want to find out how the process works, call myself or Derek. We'll be happy to assist you and walk you through the process.
And how would they, before you give the information how to contact you, Arlene, what about rent a home? How easy is that to acquire a home?
That would be in Derek's area. I don't know if anyone's really doing that much anymore, renting their homes to own. Maybe a few people, but the realtors would know that because they get the listings for things of that nature. So Derek will have that information.
Derek, I turn that over to you, please.
Sure. So rent to own is not a popular thing. Why? Because while a person's renting, let's say you're renting a house for $650,000. By the time you pay it off, the owner of that land, property value increases. So would you take more money if your house is worth more money, or would you settle for taking less money over time? The most obvious thing is most people want to get their money and go. They want to get the best value and make their next move. So rent to own is not a popular thing. It's either rent or you go for ownership. And I will say that, Arlene can expand on this. To my knowledge here, rates are at an all-time low. I believe Arlene mentioned a 1.99.
Yep, she did.
I've never heard of that prior to this conversation. So I'm very excited to hear that. And, Arlene will tell you, if you ever considered ownership, right now it's the best time. The rates are the lowest. You're going to get a lot more bang for your buck.
Yes.
Now is the time.
Yes.
So contact Arlene and get yourself pre-approved. And then see what part of New York you could buy because it's all going on sale right now.
That's right.
Are you only licensed in Illinois, just one state, Arlene?
I am licensed in Illinois, but I have brokers that I work with that are licensed in all 50 states. So If you contact me, I'll definitely connect you with the right person to work with.
How can they contact you?
I'm sorry.
How can they contact you?
Oh, they can contact me. You can either email me at arlene.price, ARLENE.PRYCE@gmail.com, or you can contact me at 630-439-4497.
Awesome. And Derek, are you
Yes.
in New York, or do you have brokers elsewhere in other states that could help out, like Arlene? Yes.
Yeah, so I'm in New York. I currently have connections in Pennsylvania, New Jersey. I operate all of New York itself. And you could reach me on my Facebook, Derek Cornwall, just as it sounds, Derek Derek, Cornwall, Cornwall. I'm also on Instagram, live LIVE _ ALIL, live a little. I think that's what we're all trying to do. I'll show you how to start.
Okay. Any phone number just in case you don't read those messages right away that they could get to you quicker? Derek?
Yes. Yes. Cell number 347-483-8308. As long as it is real estate related, that's the number you can reach me on.
Okay, awesome. Talisa, any final word before we go? I haven't forgotten you.
As I said, I had reached late, so I was a bit behind on what was discussed since the meeting has started. But I was here for almost all of the part one, and I was taking mental notes because I'm not yet ready to own a house. I was taking notes because I have very good memory, so I'm sure. And I was telling my dad about it too, so he could tell his friends about some of the things that were said in the meeting. But for this meeting, I have made mental notes, but I'm not because I was late. I don't really have anything to say right now.
Okay, but what you're saying, you got information that you could use from part one.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, guys, there you have it. Miss Arlene Price, the expert. She is such a great person, in person and in what she does. Derek, such a cool guy. He's like he said in part one, his work ethic is through the roof, and he's not going to give you basket to carry water. He's gonna be real as real can be. And I'm sure tonight, once again, we have part two. And hopefully, if you didn't catch everything, you can always go back and replay and listen and grab your notebook and catch some notes. So we do appreciate you guys for tuning in every week to Ladies Uplifting and Inspiring. And we thank you for watching till the end. And we will see you next week again. Have a good evening. Enjoy your weekend.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Have a good evening.
Okay. Bye, Arlene. Bye,
Have a
Derek.
good evening.
Talk to
Bye-bye.
you guys later. Take
Okay.
care.